old Beach Boys song, Bomberan. Bom, bom, bom. Anyway.
Ah, yes, the old Beach Boys song. John McCain there. One of his, the Democrats seized on that and said, oh, see, those Republican warmongers getting us into wars all over the place. Never mind the facts. They don't like those. Again, what is the Islamic Revolution in Iran? For what are they known? Well, the November 4th, 1979 takeover of the U.S. Embassy by the mob of radical Islamic jihadi terrorist kidnappers. The U.S. Embassy holding 52 for 444 days until Ronald Reagan was inaugurated on January 20th of 1981. That changed the world as well. Terror attacks from assassinations of diplomats in 1980 and car bombings in Beirut in 1982 and 1983, and they got real busy through the 80s, blowing people up all over the place. Hezbollah suicide bombing of the Israeli embassy in Buenos Aires in 1992 killed 29 civilians, and they got 2 Israelis, and they injured 242 other people in Buenos Aires because there might be Jews there. You know, there might be Jews. 1994 suicide bomber. Explosive-laden truck into the Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires. What is going on with that? What is it, Buenos Aires? There are Jews in Buenos Aires. Can't have that. And in Argentina, they discovered that it was Hezbollah, a subsidiary of the Islamic Revolution in Iran. 1994 Panamanian airliner, and Atlas Chiricanas flight 901 en route to Colón City and Panama City. It exploded shortly after takeoff. All 21 people aboard killed, including 12 Jews. And it turned out it was a suicide bombing. You know, it was actually the left that started hijacking airplanes in the 1960s. They wanted to go to Cuba to live a life of splendor under communism. They created that whole hijacking thing. The left did. The Islamists picked it up much later. 1996 suicide truck bomber, Iranian proxy organization, the Saudi Hezbollah, attacked Khobar Towers. I remember that, Khobar Towers in Saudi Arabia. I spent killing 19 Americans, American airmen. I was assigned to the Pentagon then, Khobar Towers. I've been to Khobar Towers before this attack in Saudi Arabia. In 2005, Beirut, the former prime minister of Lebanon, was killed, along with 21 others, a powerful explosion. In 2005. In 2008, 2 Hezbollah terrorists captured as they prepared to attack the Israeli embassy in Baku, Azerbaijan. No big deal. In November of 2008, and honestly, through April of 2009, Egyptian government announced that in November 2008, it had broken up a large Hezbollah cell in Egypt. Among the 49 plotters identified as members of the cell, 26 were arrested, charged with smuggling weapons. They're smuggling weapons in from Egypt to Hamas in Israel so they can kill the Jews, in Gaza. Aren't they something? In September of 2009, Iranian operative hired a hitman to assassinate Iranian-American regime opponent and radio personality in Glendora, California. The plot was foiled. In 2011, 8 Turkish citizens were injured in the attempted assassination of the Israeli consul in Istanbul. The Quds Force led the attempted assassination. In 2011, the FBI arrested Iranian citizen at New York's JFK airport, later charged him, along with Quds Force operative, who remains at large. plotting to assassinate the Saudi ambassador to the United States by blowing him up in a Washington restaurant. Now, that is Adel al-Jubeir, and I spent several months with Adel al-Jubeir in Saudi Arabia in 1990, before he became the ambassador to the United States of America. Me and a friend of mine threw him in a fountain one time in Dhahran. That would become Saudi ambassador, Adel al-Jubeir. I always liked him, real good guy. And they were going to blow him up in a restaurant in Georgetown, that place in Georgia, the nice fancy restaurant that Bill Clinton likes to go to. I'll think of it in just a second. But they were going to blow up the Israeli ambassador in Washington, D.C. Isn't that just great? In 2012, several bombings in Bangkok, Thailand, killed 5 people. Thai authorities said the bombings were a botched attempt by the Iranian nationals to assassinate Israeli diplomats. Sure, in Bangkok, Thailand, because why would you do that? In 2012, Cypriot authorities, that's in Cyprus, arrested a Hezbollah terrorist with a Swedish passport who collected information on Israelis arriving on flights. Isn't that great? And there you have it. It goes on and on. 2012, Hezbollah suicide bomber attacked a passenger bus transporting Israeli tourists in Burgas Airport in Bulgaria. Sure, and you got to do that. 2015, Lebanese-Canadian Hezbollah member arrested in Cyprus with 8.2 tons of potential bomb-making materials found in his basement. Month later, sentenced to 6 years in jail. That doesn't sound like enough. And in 2018, Belgian police arrested a Belgian couple of Iranian descent carrying explosives and a detonator on their way to a mass gathering of Iranian dissidents near Paris. They were going to blow up and kill them all. 2018, 2 Iranians who collected information on Israelis and Jewish targets in the U.S. and on opponents of the Iranian regime were arrested and later charged with spying for Tehran. It goes on and on. They kill, they blow up, they kidnap, they assassinate, they torture, they rape, they kill again. They're terrorists. They fund Hezbollah in Lebanon. They fund Hamas in Israel. They fund the Houthis in Yemen. They fund killers in Buenos Aires. We had, again, over the weekend in Austin, Texas, a guy wearing he got an Iran flag T-shirt underneath his Islam, property of Islam T-shirt or sweatshirt, gunning people down, a Senegalese Muslim immigrant to the United States, gunning down, 16 people in Austin, Texas this weekend. All right? And in the meantime, Democrat members of Congress, like Rashida Tlaib, are on the side of Iran, saying that both the U.S. and genocidal Israel, Israel is not genocidal, they're the targets of genocidal lunatics, doesn't care. She means don't care about the laws. This is who they are. They, the United States of America, they, Israel, they and them, because Rashida Tlaib is a foreign agent, and she's not on the side of the good guys. Just amazing Democrat Party stuff. Yeah, he was wearing a Property of Allah shirt in Austin, Texas. All right? And underneath that, it was a hoodie, actually, a sweatshirt. And underneath that, he had a T-shirt with his Iran emblem on it. And in the meantime, in Iran, they're celebrating in the streets and cheering in the streets. In Los Angeles, Iranian nationals cheering in the streets. In Washington, D.C., near the White House in Freedom Plaza over the weekend, Iranian nationals cheering in the streets with American flags and the old Iranian flag, not the Islamic Revolution Iranian flag. And where are the Democrats on this? They're undermining the United States of America. All right, let's go back to soundbite number 6. President Trump. We had played the audio of the president on Saturday when he came out and first made the announcement calling on the Iranian people and even the Iranian military to step up and fight for freedom in their country and end this regime. President Trump yesterday when we had learned that initially 3 American troops killed. Now we're aware at least 4 American troops killed plus 5 American troops wounded. It is a war against radical Islam, taking it to the head of the snake. The great Satan was always Iran and the Ayatollah and the mullahs. President Trump yesterday.
Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until all of our objectives are achieved. Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives.
There was some sort of an audio glitch there, but I think yesterday it was 3 Americans. Now the number is at 4 Americans killed, 5 wounded. President Trump talking about our troops fighting the fight.
We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but we'll do everything possible where that won't be the case.
And I got to say, first of all, it's a miraculous military operation thus far. And the Iranians, suicide attackers, and they blow themselves up. That makes for a different kind of warfare when you're not fighting against civilized Western people. I wish we could just fight Germany all the time, but President Trump yesterday.
America will avenge their deaths and deliver the most punishing blow to the terrorists who have waged war against basically civilization. They have waged war against civilization itself.
Waged war against civilization itself is, now, and I saw that. That's exactly right, and that's what I've been saying for years. This is a fight for civilization itself. Not just Western, not just American, but for civilization itself against the opposite of civilization. Let's go back to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Pat, calling from the beautiful Northern Neck in Virginia. I love it down there. Patrick, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris, and thank you for your show and everything you do. I've called in before some time ago, so it's a pleasure talking with you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I just was sharing with your call screener. I served over there in the Persian Gulf in 1979 and 1980 with the Nimitz Battle Group. I was on the cruiser Texas, and we were Mediterranean in 1979, a little bit of R&R up there in Italy. And the next thing, we were called back to the ship, and try to make a long story short, we got underway and rendezvoused with Nimitz in California at the Straits of Gibraltar, and everybody, through the years had asked why didn't we go through the Suez Canal. And the best I could explain at that time during the Cold War, Russia and Egypt still had a relationship, more or less, and pretty much it was a no-go for us to go through there. So Nimitz, Texas, and California being nuclear-powered, we were heading out around the Atlantic. We went around Africa all the way down to the Cape of Good Hope and, of course, up to the Indian Ocean and Persian Gulf. And we rendezvoused with 2 other carrier battle groups from the Pacific. So we had Kitty Hawk and we had Midway. So that'll tell you how long ago that was.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Midway and Kitty Hawk. Boy, yeah.
And we had plenty of warships. We had other military assets ready to go. We had, of course, Jimmy Carter as our commander-in-chief, so you pretty much can figure out nothing was done. I'd say probably all of this could have been taken care of many years ago, but it didn't. And but I will say that as a former sailor and military man, God bless our troops and all of them that are doing their duty at this time, standing the post, standing the watch, and in battle conditions and ready to go. So I just wanted to share a little bit of history, a little bit of for this day and what's going on. And just one more thing, my oldest brother, who's passed on now, he and I got to serve on the Texas together. He was a operations specialist, and I was a sonar tech. So,
God bless, Patrick. That's a great history. Saluting you, my friend. But I have not yet gotten to Pete Hegseth and to General Raisin Kane, the Pentagon briefing this morning, and President Trump due to come out and speak soon. Let's go back to the telephones. Let's go to Kennedy calling from Manassas, Virginia. Kennedy, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, my friend, good to talk to you again. Real quick, I just wanted to remember that video that all the Democrats put out telling the military folks not to obey unlawful orders. And here you have this strike that the Democrats consider like unconstitutional, illegal, and all this other stuff. I just want to point out our military is executing. Our military is following orders. Our military is the most professional we have in the world. And I just want to throw that in the face of the Democrats. You told them, you tried to undermine the president, you tried to undermine the military and cause division, and it fell completely flat. That video was completely ineffective. Our military is professional. They follow orders as they're told. We have a good commander-in-chief, and and he's rebuilt the military, as he said, and our military is executing. And I love to see our professional military doing what they do best.
Absolutely, and a very good point that they were undermining when there was nothing going on militarily to speak of. I guess they were taking out drug runners in the Caribbean and the Gulf of America. I love calling it the Gulf of America because it helps their heads explode. But yeah, to disobey orders, and everybody in the military knows. Have you served in the military? You sound like you might have, Kennedy.
Yeah, I spent 4 years active duty in the Army, and I did some time in the Virginia National Guard, too.
Yeah, so, day one, at least week one, you learn that you don't follow illegal orders, of course, but you don't get illegal orders. It's the United States of America. And the Democrats, they just look to undermine the United States of America wherever they can, don't they?
Yeah, a special thank you to all the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines out there that are doing their job today and every day. They do it in harsh weather. You got the stories and the pictures of the tomb of the unknowns, those soldiers out there in the harsh conditions and everything, and the guys that are on those aircraft carriers doing what they do in those harsh conditions. And, just a lot of love and respect. You got a veteran community that loves and respects our military, and you got a lot of people that are not in the military that love and respect our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. And just a special thank you to everybody out there. I know there's a lot of the WMAL listening area in the Northern Virginia. There's a lot of military bases, so a special thank you from a vet. Thank you guys for doing it. There's a lot of people back here in the States doing stuff for this deployment,
That's right. There's so much more, so much other news over the weekend, too. This is obviously the biggest news in the world. It was a very fun story over the weekend, the New York Post. How much Major League Baseball star Merrill Kelly saves in taxes by spurning California contract for Arizona. Major League Baseball star Merrill Kelly will pocket nearly $2.5 million more per year over the next two baseball seasons of his $40 million deal by signing in Arizona instead of California. Massive difference in cash reflects the spread in state income taxes, as well as California's disability insurance levy and typical property tax differences on a luxury home. Pretty amazing stuff, but it's mostly income tax. California, their top marginal tax rate reaches 13.3%. Sure. A 12.3% bracket plus an additional 1% mental health services tax on income above $1 million. So on a $20 million salary per year, that translates to roughly $2.63 million that he'd owe to the state of California if he stayed in California, as opposed to living in Arizona. Arizona, by contrast, imposes a flat rate of 2.5%, regardless of earnings. This is the Democrats. They're making everything better. They're stealing everything they can. All right, let's get back to the war, because it's the biggest thing in the world, and putting an end to the Islamic revolution in Iran would be the greatest thing for the 92 million people of Iran, be the greatest thing for the people of Lebanon, Israel. And I got to, I was texting over the weekend, # free Iran, # free Iran. And if you want to # free Gaza, the best way to free Gaza is to topple the regime in Tehran. Because if the Hamas were not being funded by Iran and by Barack Obama, by extension, Hussein funding terror everywhere, Barack Obama, but that would free the people of Gaza, who are not terrorists and members of Hamas, but just these so-called peace-loving Palestinians that we've heard so much about. If you want to free Gaza, get rid of the regime in Tehran. And then maybe the people of Gaza can be free and join the most successful country and culture in the Middle East, in the Arab world, and that's Israel. Aren't they amazing? Did you see, actually, Iran blew up a Palestinian hotel in Israel? They were raining death upon Israel with rockets and missiles, and one of the rockets hit a Palestinian hospital in Gaza? No, actually in Jerusalem. That's right, a Palestinian hospital in Jerusalem where Israelis live, Jews live, Arabs live, Muslims live, Christians live, atheists live, where LGBTQ people live in Jerusalem. And the Iranians, oops, we blew up a hospital. Oh, no. Well, they're happy to blow up an Israeli hospital. But this hospital in Jerusalem was a Palestinian hospital, and the Iranians blew it up. And NBC doesn't care. NBC News doesn't care. All right, now let's go to the press conference at the Pentagon this morning with the Secretary of War, formerly known as the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, a combat veteran himself, U.S. Army. And this morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, they came out and had a briefing at the Pentagon. Who is it? Brian Seltzerwater. Brian Seltzerwater at CNN, hilariously, the Eggman, hilariously this morning said, at the Pentagon, they had friendly reporters that they called on, and they knew ahead of time who they were going to call on at the Pentagon briefing. I'm like, I'm sorry, should we go to the photographs of Joe Biden's cheat sheet with the photos of the reporters and their names on them and what questions would be asked and the names, and the answers printed out ahead of time? That they couldn't be bigger clowns, bigger hypocrites. They're like the Middle East. No wonder they like the Middle East so much. They're very much like, they're more like Iranians than they are like Americans. Here's the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, this morning in the 8 a.m. hour Eastern Time.
2 days ago, under the direction and direct orders of President Donald J. Trump, the Department of War launched Operation Epic Fury, the most lethal, most complex, and most precise aerial operation in history. For 47 long years, the expansionist and Islamist regime in Tehran has waged a savage, one-sided war against America. They didn't always declare it openly, except for their constant chants of death to America. They did it through the blood of our people. Car bombs in Beirut, rocket attacks on our ships, murders at our embassies, roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan, funded and armed by Iranian Quds Force and IRGC killers.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the killers, they've murdered, the estimates vary, 25,000 to 35,000 Iranian citizens have been murdered just in the last weeks by the Quds Force and the IRGC and the internal security apparatus of the Islamic Revolution in Iran, murdering tens of thousands of their own people. You saw they had wounded people who ended up in hospital beds, and their thugs marched into the hospitals, walked into the hospital rooms and shot people in their heads and killed them in their hospital beds because they failed to kill them out in the street, so they went into the hospital beds to kill them. And the Democrats are like, hey, they haven't done anything wrong. They haven't blown us up in weeks. And And then a psychopath in Austin, Texas over the weekend, shooting up people in Austin, Texas, Liberal Haven in Texas, outside at least 2 killed and 14 wounded by the psychopath wearing his Allah T-shirt, property of Allah, property of Islam. And here's the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth.
My generation of veterans carry the names of brothers who never came home. Brothers butchered by Iranian-backed roadside bombs and well-armed militias, thousands of our own. We didn't start this war, but under President Trump, we are finishing it. Their war on Americans has become our retribution against their Ayatollah and his death cult.
You know, Barack Obama's ringtone on his cell phone is Iranians chanting death to America out on the streets of... Did you know that? His ringtone is Iranians chanting death to America. He's Hussein. He's Hussein to the core. Pete Hegseth on President Trump and the war. We're at war with Iran right now, and it's, I got to tell you, I mean, there's been something that's been a back burner issue for a long, long time, for decades, really since the 1980s. And all my time, my 10 years at the Pentagon, Iran was always a factor in everything in the Middle East. They're the bad guy behind the curtain on almost everything. Pete Hegseth.
It took the 47th president, a fighter who always puts America first, to finally draw the line after 47 years of Iranian belligerence. He reminded the world, as he has time and time again, being an American means something unbreakable. If you kill Americans, if you threaten Americans anywhere on earth, we will hunt you down without apology and without hesitation, and we will kill you.
I like that one. And that's been the Israeli policy for decades and decades now, going back to 1972, go to the Munich Olympics and the massacre of Israeli athletes there. And they announced that they would hunt down those people and kill them wherever they found them, and they did. It's a very good message to send, even though they love to die. That's okay. Pete Hegseth on President Trump.
President Trump has also been very consistent. Crazy regimes like Iran, hell-bent on prophetic Islamist delusions, cannot have nuclear weapons. It's common sense. Many have said it, but it takes guts to actually enforce it, and our president has guts.
Now, the Obama regime and their bolt-neck negotiator. So you want to keep spinning centrifuges and enriching uranium? Sure, that's no problem. We'll let you do that. We'll give you plane loads of cash to do it with. You want to do it deep underground in the side of a mountain like you see in Top Gun Maverick? Sure, you can do that. That's no problem. Yeah, you want to have sites where nuclear enrichment is going on, and we don't have access, and the IAEA doesn't have access, the International Atomic Energy Agency does not have access to inspect? Sure, said Obama and Boltneck, John Kerry, while buying another $40 million mansion on another island off of Massachusetts. Honestly, the Democrat Party fueled all of this. The Democrat Party has blood on their hands. Iran can't have nuclear weapons. And you want to continue to expand the reach of your ballistic missiles until they can reach the United States? They can already reach half of Western Europe. No problem. Keep extending the range of your ballistic missiles. Keep spinning centrifuges. Keep enriching uranium. Keep doing it in secret and in underground, in bunkers a half mile underground in mountainsides. They gave them a green light to enrich uranium. And again, President Trump offered Iran last week or 2 weeks ago, said, you want nuclear energy? Build your nuclear power plants. We, the United States, will give you for free the nuclear fuel that you need to generate all the electricity you need, but no enriching uranium. And they said, nope, we're going to enrich our own uranium up to 60% purity, which is perfect for building nuclear devices, nuclear weapons, nuclear bombs. And they got the green light from Barack Hussein Obama and John Kerry and the Democrats to do that with money that Barack Obama gave them, plane loads of cash, and freeing up all their money that was frozen in bank accounts. the Democrat Party is a bigger threat than the Iranian, the Islamic Revolution in Iran. Pete Hegseth.
Iran's stubborn and self-evident nuclear pursuits, their targeting of global shipping lanes, and their swelling arsenal of ballistic missiles and killer drones are no longer tolerable risks. Iran was building powerful missiles and drones to create a conventional shield for their nuclear blackmail ambitions. Let me say that again. A conventional shield for their nuclear blackmail ambitions. Our bases, our people, our allies, all in their crosshairs. Iran had a conventional gun to our head as they tried to lie their way to a nuclear bomb. It almost worked under Obama and his terrible deal, but not under this president.
But not under this president. Now, this is, remember how the Democrats said Trump was making NATO weaker and hollowing out NATO and leaving NATO, and everything they say is a lie. If they tell you what day of the week it is, don't believe them. The NATO Secretary General is a man named Mark Rutte. And he's a NATO Secretary General, and it's got the Soviet General Secretary and the NATO Secretary General. Here is the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte talking about the raids on Iran and the President of the United States.
The Commander-in-Chief, the leader of the free world, President Donald J. Trump, I really commend what is happening here. Taking out Khamenei, taking out the nuclear capability in Iran, but also taking out the ballistic missile program in Iran. This is crucial. And what I see in Europe, I spoke with all the key European leaders over the weekend, is widespread support for what the president is doing, and also making sure that when it comes to logistics, access, defending key U.S. interests in Europe and in the region, the Europeans are really stepping up.
The Europeans are really stepping up. The silly communist, wannabe Islamist, lefty prime minister of Great Britain first said, well, you can't use Diego Garcia, an important strategic island in the Pacific, and we're not going to help. You can't use our bases. Well, he changed his tune on that, and now he's on the Trump bandwagon, and he's saying, well, sure, you can use our base. Sure, we can help. What can we do to help? And the NATO chief, Mark Rutte, this morning.
Hey, the good news is here that there is no a shiver of light between us. The Europeans, Canada, Mark Carney, the United States, the American president, all for one for all, because everybody supports here in Europe the fact that Khamenei is gone, that the nuclear capability is gone, that the ballistic missile program has been now degraded, which was a big threat for Europe, for Israel, for the whole region. We see countries like the UAE, Bahrain, Oman and other Gulf nations now under attack, indiscriminate attacks against innocent civilians living in Dubai and in other proud capitals in the region.
This is NATO. President Trump made NATO stronger, got our NATO allies to pay more in, and listen to them. That the commander-in-chief, the leader of the free world, says the European head of NATO, Mark Rutte.
We are dealing with a regime in Iran which is terrorist by nature, which is exporting chaos to the region, and that's why everybody supports what is being done now here under President Trump's leadership.
I got to tell you, that's big stuff from the NATO chief, the NATO boss, and it sounded he was glowing. Oh, we support him completely, taking out the nuclear, taking out the missiles, taking out the leadership. The leader of the free world, the commander-in-chief. That's the NATO Secretary General, not an American, a European. Everything the Democrats say about everything is a lie. You should know that by now. I'm sure that you do. Big things happening on planet Earth. If that regime falls and a peace-loving regime rises in its place, this may turn out to be the most epic achievement of President Trump's time as leader of the free world. If Iran ceases to be a terror state, it would be a revolutionary, epic change on a global scale entirely because of President Trump and the United States military. Now, what is it, Michael? The tweet is, when's the last time you saw a nation of people celebrating in the streets because a foreign military came in and bombed them? Because that's happening in Iran right now. And Iranians in Washington, D.C., celebrating over the weekend near the White House and Freedom Plaza. Iranians in Los Angeles out in the street celebrating that the United States is attacking their home country and hopefully toppling the regime there. Looks pretty toppled right now. And CNN they were aghast when they were talking to an Iranian American out on the sidewalks in Los Angeles celebrating the death of the Ayatollah, the toppling of the regime.
When is the last time you saw people in Israel and Iran dancing on the streets in excitement? And when is the last time you've ever heard of a country coming out and dancing because they're excited that foreign powers are attacking them?
And that's an Iranian American in Los Angeles talking to CNN, and Iranian Americans celebrating in the street behind him. Quite a remarkable time we are in. President Trump at the White House today, holding a conference and talking about the attack on Iran.
We warned Iran not to make any attempt to rebuild at a different location because they were unable to use the ones that we so powerfully blew up. But they ignored those warnings and refused to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons.
They refuse to cease their pursuit of nuclear weapons. And all they want is an arsenal of nuclear weapons. The Democrats are good with that. They want to continue to enrich uranium in secret and to illegal levels so they can produce weapons and extend the range of their ballistic missiles so they can threaten and eventually kill the world. And the Democrat Party, they're their friends. They're their friends. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to get to the deadly shooting as Snoop Dogg opened the Nipsey Hussle burger store in Los Angeles. They had a big opening yesterday. Nipsey Hussle, a rapper that was murdered, and Snoop Dogg is there to open it. There was a shooting, one killed, several more shot. Sure.